Well, YouTube family, today I've got a pretty sad, heart-hurting video. And it's one of those things that, it's part of life. It happens and you've got to deal with it and make the best of it. But it just is so sickening that this happened. So the other day, we're out at the deer lease and we flipped our Can Am Defender. So it's right here behind me. You can already kind of see it's not in the best shape. Anyway, I mean, it's a freak thing, what happened, and luckily no one's injured seriously. I mean, there was a kid in the vehicle and, he's okay. It's all good. But it just also reminds you to be safe and be conscious of what you're doing and always be as careful as possible. I mean, because lickety split, anything can happen. So this video is going to be about taking the assessment of the damage of the Can Am Defender and then really asking you guys, what should we do? What should we do with it? How do we fix it? We need some help here. So I'm going to turn the camera around and we're going to take a look at the damage on the Can Am. Of course, you saw behind me this feeder that we use. It's a road feeder, wildlife feeder, and it's all kind of banged up. The wreck occurred and the machine literally flipped over onto its back. You can see all the mud on the top from where it dug in and slid on the ground. But we'll start from the rear here. Okay, so from the back, we saw the feeder. One of the things that I noticed right out of the gate, I mean, it's subtle, but it still has implications of damage. And that is the gap between the bed rail and the tailgate. It's like I can stick my finger there and I can feel a bit of a gap. And then I come over here and I can stick my finger all the way between the tailgate and the bed rail. There's a significantly bigger gap over here than there is on the passenger side. So it's like right away, just kind of going side to side. That caught my eye. The other thing that catches my eye is, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but this side is much more squatted down, pressed in than the top of the frame of the roll cage on the driver's side. And then as we get closer, you can see how the rear glass is actually pushing away from the frame of the roll cage. And then if we come down, take a look at the back of the bed rail. You see how it's bowed out? That's because the center crossbar on the roll cage that the seats mount to is pushing back into the bed. And I'm going to come around to this passenger side. Whenever it flipped over, the roll cage pressed so hard backwards and bent backwards that it actually chewed into this bed rail here, and then I guess it bent back into shape, if you will, and that's why it's not touching it right now. But it just means that this got stressed and got bent when it flipped over. Let me go back to the driver's side. So of the two sides, the driver's side is the least damaged. Again, once you compare it to everything, even the driver's side has tweaks in the roll cage. Let me come back to this. It'll be sort of hard to see, but the bracket on this rear windshield is broken on this side. It's okay in the center, and then it's broken off over there on the passenger side as well. So we're gonna have to get new brackets for the rear windshield. Like I said, everything's mostly okay, or seems to be okay or better on the driver's side. This insulation or bushing from the roof is hanging down, which means that, just in the twisting of the roof from the roll cage, it pulled itself out of place. We're gonna have to take the whole roof off anyway for all of this. We'll come around to the front, and the windshield is just absolutely jacked up. Look at it sitting away from the frame. It's supposed to be shut, but it popped out of position, and it's open on this side, and then over on the passenger side it's completely closed. Just look how shattered it is. It's just really bad. Oh man, sickening. You also can tell, I'm going to stand in front of it looking back at it, you can tell how it's lower on the passenger side than it is on the driver's side. I mean, this roof line that's above it is actually tilting down, and it still it still has a bigger gap on this passenger side than on the driver's side. I mean, it just really, you know, again, I don't know if you can tell in the video, but it just really looks crooked and lopsided. I did notice also, kind of like in the rear with the tailgate, the gaps between the fairings, the body panels, and the lights is much tighter over here. The fairing is almost touching, it's like scraping against the light. So this is pushed in a little bit. I already fixed the wheel and the tire. The tire had actually come unbeaded from the wheel. I think that might be part of what caused the thing to flip, is that making a turn at a decent amount of speed, the tire came off the bead, the wheel catches the ground, and it turned the buggy over. Because usually these things, you know, they'll fishtail and turn. You know, they're not, I'm going to say, easy to flip, especially on a wet or soft or sandy sort of road. But when that bead popped off, it caught and flipped right over. So this is really the area of the machine that's got the most damage. This A-pillar bar on the roll cage is just so smashed in. It's very bent all throughout, and it comes up and you can kind of see where it tries to square back off, where that stuff back here, the B and the C pillar bar, aren't as bent or flattened out as this, but right here took the brunt of the crash. I mean, all this mud is what was dug up off the ground when it rolled over. It's not like that was mud that was just slung up there. So let's come back to the B pillar bar. If I look at it straight on, kind of comparing it to the B pillar bar on the driver's side, you can see how they're not parallel with each other. I think you should be able to see that in the video. And then if at closer inspection, if you come up here, you can see where the B pillar bar actually split, because it's leaning back here, and then this is leaning forward, and it just popped that when it pressed down and split it. So that's not good. I also believe that it's still got a bit of a tilt. It's kind of like when you bend a staple, it sort of springs back into position, but it's never in the original position. And then coming all the way back to the rear, the C pillar bar, same thing. If I kind of line it up with the C pillar bar, it's a little harder with that glass in the way, but the C pillar bar is also leaning back a bit. Like I said, I already showed you the bed and how it's bending. So because of that, the seats are leaning back. They almost look like they have a recline feature built into them now because they're leaning back so far. The roof itself doesn't have any holes in it or any cracks, which is pretty amazing. So I think we'll be able to salvage the roof. The windshield's a goner. The rear windshield just needs new brackets. It's not going to be easy. And probably not going to be cheap to get this thing fixed. So give us some ideas on what you think we should do to fix it. My idea right now is that we're going to take the roof off, take the windshield off, the rear windshield off, and then start taking all the pieces of the roll cage off one at a time, all the way down to the main main body or main frame of the machine, and then kind of backtrack. We'll make sure that the main frame of the machine's not bent. You know, I did check that front side control arm and all the suspension and the axle and everything. Seems to be good. The steering seems to still be pretty tight and everything's relatively in alignment. But we're going to take the roll cage off and decide if just replacing the roll cage is enough to get this thing back into normal operating order. If you have any other ideas, or if you know where we can get a roll cage at a decent price that'll fit this thing, it's brand new. This is like a 2023 model. You might have seen my video when we first got it just a couple months ago. It's a HD10 Can Am Defender. She's hurting. Again, if you ride ATVs, if you hunt, you have these kind of machines, I know you know this. It sounds like a broken record, of course, to, you know, always be safe, but really be safe. Things can happen lickety split. The main thing is that we learn from it and we keep going and keep having fun, and we're not going to let it discourage us or stop us or anything. So leave a comment below on what you think we should do with the Can Am. Maybe we could do like a Whistling Diesel style video and sink this thing in a pond, you know, do a durability test, roll it down a hill. If we do that, though, we're going to need about 10 million of you guys to subscribe and watch the video so that it monetizes correctly, you know. But we'll do whatever you want if enough people will watch it. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.